Joining us now live in studio, Rex Alphin, candidate, District 64. He's also a supervisor of Isle of Wight. And, this is interesting. This is a little awkward because Rex and I met in 2011 in Newport News at the Daily Press, where we were going for the interviews to who to back for supervisor in Isle of Wight. And Rex came in, they made his little presentation, and I didn't endorse him. Sorry about that, Rex. You won anyway. Shows you how much influence I had. You ended up winning anyway.
Yeah. Well, thanks, John, and thanks for having me here. It's a great show. I love your theme. No nonsense, just common sense. And you are the voice of Hampton Roads, voice of Virginia, and I desire to be the voice of the 64th District. So,
all right. Now tell me so everybody knows, the 64th District is a Republican district. The Republican nominee is going to win this no matter what the Democrats say. This is the seat of the retiring Rick Morris, who had some issues that he has to deal with. And Smithfield is in the center of the district. It's kind of the base there. So, Rex, you're a supervisor in Isle of Wight. Why do you want to go to Richmond?
Well, that's a great question. Well, let me back up, because I'm going to extend that question a little bit. I think anytime you have a representative, they bring to their particular office, and I would bring to Richmond all that I am. All of my summation of my experiences, my life, how I look at life, my philosophy, the role that government should play and shouldn't play. And so my life up to this point has pretty much defined me. That's what I'm going to take there. And let me just share a little bit about that. About 70 years, a man came to southern Isle of Wight and said, "This will be my place, and this will be where I will raise my family. I'll make a living out of the soil, and I'll teach my children here, and I will keep my bride here and die here." That man was my father. And he upheld his promise. He died about 2.5 months ago, 89 years old, and I had the privilege of working the soil with him my entire life. And that wasn't just a job.
Farmer.
Yes. It wasn't just a job, John. That defines one's existence, because you work in partnership with nature and creation and the world that was there. It defines how you look at life, how you work at a project, how you stand in the midst of miracles, these seeds, these little round things we put in the ground, and they come out of the ground. And I'll tell you something, this is a secret, so we'll keep it right here between me and you and your listeners. In the farmer's world, the seed does most of the work. And we actually put it in the ground, and we lived in this miracle field where things happen and it grows, and we have this season, and it's a marvelous way of life. And it defined our existence and who we were as a family and our value system. And so I say that to say that lifestyle pretty much epitomizes the 64th District, if you would. It's a very rural district. I can take that experience and leapfrog right on up north to Prince George County. Mm-hmm. Those would be my constituents. Those would be the people I would seek to represent. And I feel like I can represent them because that's my world and that's their world, and I understand those people. And I've had the privilege of representing them on the local level at Isle of Wight County for the past 6 years. A marvelous experience. I've chaired that board. This will be my 3rd year. And it's given me an opportunity, or really opened my eyes to what a representative should do, mm-hmm. what their role should play. Mm-hmm. And that role representative, we don't want to take that role too lightly. So we represent people. We're their voice. We feel their heartbeat and what their desires are and what their values are. And apart from being closely connected with them, I don't know how a person could represent our people well.
So you're a farmer, right?
Yes.
I was in New York last week, and I spent 2 days in Buffalo at a factory. And one of the factory owners I met with has been fighting NAFTA and TPP and the Korean trade agreement with me forever, who's trying to save jobs up there. I remember he said last week, we have to get back to people doing 3 things: grow, manufacture, or build something. Yeah. And you're in grow. Right?
Yes,
he said either you're farming, you're building something, or you're manufacturing something. That's the seed of the United States. I mean, so let's get back to some of the issues at hand, because I believe that the winner of this Republican primary, Rex, is going to represent the 64th District. So let's get to some key issues that you might face in 2018. The 2015 Dominion rate compromise that Frank Wagner negotiated, now running for governor, which basically kept rates stable for a 7-year period while foregoing any overcharge refund. So that was a deal that was made. Now, some people are saying it should be renegotiated because it was based on the Clean Power Act, which is not going to be enacted under Trump. And so State Senator Chad Peterson, Governor Ed Gillespie, and others have said it needs to get re-looked at and scrapped and start over. Others say, no, they made the deal, it's working. How do you stand on that?
Well, it's a good question. I served with Senator Wagner on our HR TACT, Hampton Roads Transportation and Accountability Commission. And I think in light of the reformed or potential pullback regulations that have been in place, which I'm certainly in favor of, I think we need to take a fresh look at that. Those rates are regulated by the government. The citizens have very little input on that. And so we need to keep a close eye on how much of a rise that should take place. But it's a business, and they've got to make a profit also. So I think we've got to keep a balance there.
So if it came up and you had to vote on yes or no on either continuing with the plan as it is or renegotiating it, how would you come down on that?
I would have to take a closer look at that and look at both sides, because
you're not giving me an answer, Rex. That's a political. Here you are. You're just running for political office, and you're giving me a double-speak political answer.
Well, let me just say this.
I mean, either you're for it or not.
I've also learned that not to speak into subjects that you're not thoroughly acquainted with. So I would have to investigate that subject. And I'll be honest with you, many representatives are very acquainted with certain fields. I'm very acquainted with local government. I'm very acquainted with the agrarian lifestyle, if you would. So we are necessarily dependent on our constituents to inform us of areas that we might not be that informed with, and to look at both sides of that. So that's what I'd have to do, to be honest with you.
Okay, so you're going to get back to us on it. All right, we'll stick with Frank Wagner here for a second, being that you serve with him. So Frank Wagner, whether he's governor or not, he has proposed, he's the chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, that we have a minimum floor on the gasoline tax. In other words, as the tax goes down, you get less revenue. What he's saying is we need this money to fix these roads. So he's going to propose legislation in 2018, either as senator or governor, depending on how it turns out, in order to increase the gasoline tax so there's a minimum floor so that they get the money, the state needs to get the money they need to build roads. How do you stand on that?
I think I'm for it, and I'll tell you why. I served on HR TAC with Frank, and when this commission was originally started, as you know, it's one here and one in Northern Virginia. And let me say, there was no additional monies put in our road infrastructure for until 30 years. 30 years. So we're that far behind the ball. And when I go to places to speak to people and they hear their concerns, that is a recurring refrain that our roadways need fixing. We need to do something about congestion and things. So this was set up, obviously, to address those concerns. What I like about HR TAC is those additional monies that come into Hampton Roads are spent at Hampton Roads. So those monies are, those that pay it benefit directly from that. When it was initiated, I think it was lack of foresight that there was not a floor put in. If you remember, at the time it was initiated, it was $3 and plus for a gallon of gas. Mm-hmm. Nobody had any idea it was going to go below $2.
That's right.
So all of these revenues that everyone anticipated on were drastically reduced. So I think we do need to go back and put some type of floor there. I think Senator Wagner's bill, it decreases as gasoline goes up, but it does gives us, as HR TAC, we don't know how much money is going to come in now because there's no floor there.
Right.
So we're making long-term plans. And by the way, I think we did something that was fairly unprecedented. Everybody in Hampton Roads came together and it was unanimous on how we would spend this additional money. We looked at the highest congestion points.
Right.
Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel was number one.
Right.
High-rise bridge. There's probably people sitting there on that bridge right now as we're talking. Say, well, now, why don't they do something about this bridge?
Right.
So we basically have blown our wad there. That's where our money is going to be spent, and certainly in favor of that. But I would certainly support that bill.
Okay, Rex, let me just ask you this. Obamacare this weekend, right? We spent weeks on it. Trump did. The replacement bill failed. Obamacare stays in place. The money from the federal government continues to fund Medicaid expansion now in perpetuity. Do you think it was a mistake for the Republicans not to take the Medicaid expansion money?
I think it was a mistake. I think it was a mistake that the things weren't put into place before this bill. I think it was rushed through. I think the Obamacare does need to be fixed. It needs to be, if possible, replaced. There's some changes that definitely need to take place. It's a very complicated scenario, and I think a lot of homework was not done when it was brought to the floor. And it looks bad. I got to say, it looks bad. I think we can fix it. They're going to have to regroup at some point. As Trump said, let it explode if it would. Maybe it will. But I think those of us that feel like it needs to be changed, we need to regroup and address those issues and try to gain some consensus here so when it comes back to the floor, we'll have the votes we need.
Do you think that Virginia could continue to not take the Medicaid expansion funds now that Obamacare is just going to go on and keeps getting funded?
Yes, I do. I don't think we should take those. Anytime you take monies, I find this on the local level. When you take monies from the government above you, the state or federal, there are always strings attached to it.
Right.
Oftentimes just matching funds. Oftentimes it's, we'll give you this for 3 years, but then you've got to pick up the. And so those things, I think this long-term looking, it would be a bad deal to move in that direction.
Okay, now let's get to the gubernatorial race. There's 3 candidates still running for governor. Denver Riggleman dropped out last week. Frank Wagner, the front runner, Ed Gillespie, and Prince William County Chairman of Supervisors, Corey Stewart. Have you made a choice in that race?
No, I can't say I have. I think they're 3 good men. They embrace conservative values. I'm for that. I think we're basically pulling on the same rope. So I think they all bring some good things to the table. Gillespie does. He's from up north, but he brings conservative values there. I think it has some pull. I've served with Mr. Wagner and the gentleman from Richmond, Prince William County.
Corey Stewart. Now, the other day, Ed Gillespie and his campaign came out with a 10% across-the-board personal state tax reduction. It's real dollars. I mean, like I was telling everybody, I just got, and my wife just made the estimate for our, I guess, what would it be, 2016 taxes or something? And it was like $6,000 or $5,000. So 10%, I mean, that's $500. That's, for somebody like me, that means something. Are you in favor of that?
It depends on where the revenue comes from. If it's a program whereby it reduces the taxes that local government must use to provide the services that citizens demand, I would have a real question with that. If it imposes some type of mandate on local government, because I can tell you, serving in local government, our budget is primarily 2 things, and this is true for all local governments across the Commonwealth. Number 1 priority is education. That's our number 1 expense is education. Citizens want an excellent education for their children. We must invest in that. And secondly is public safety. Citizens need, and I would suggest that democracy cannot stand if this is not in place. Citizens need to feel safe. If you don't have that, you don't have anything else. So there's your police force, your sheriff's department, and there's your educational department. So citizens need that. I think a good community, that community which seeks to promote what is good and true and beautiful. They need to provide those services so their citizens can flourish in a safe community and get an education they deserve. So anything that would diminish that, I would have to take a strong look at, I must admit.
Okay, so you're still in the evaluation stage, right? Whether you think that makes sense.
Yes, and I've seen some of
That's
where
legit.
those funds would come from, but I would be very careful about saying, okay, local government, we're going to take these funds away from you. You've got to make up for it.
All right, Rob Bell, who was running for Attorney General, who I'm sure you know, House of Delegates member, Rob Bell has put forth a Tebow bill like 5-6 times. It keeps getting a little bit closer. That's where you allow people that are being homeschooled in order to participate in junior varsity and the varsity sports at the high school that they're in the district in. The argument in you're paying property taxes, you choose to homeschool, that's your own choice. How do you stand on that?
I'm for it. I think it would be a great idea. And as you said, those families, they pay taxes like everyone else. They pay property tax. They also pay state taxes, So I'd love to see as much as possible parental choice. And I like to see the money follow the child, if possible. So Homeschooling was somewhat rare, and when I was young, it's more mainstream there. There's some wonderful outcomes from that. My children, when I have 3 children, they're all grown now. They've been involved in homeschooling, they've been involved in private schooling, and they've been involved in public schools. So I've had experience in all 3 of those things. So I think it'd be wonderful.
Okay, you got a minute.
1 minute, huh?
Give your closing statement why people should vote for Rex Alphin and not Emily Brewer in the 2017 primary.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on, John. This has been very good. I'm the only candidate of both parties running for the 64th that has had any experience in elected office at all. From my understanding, I'm the only candidate that actually operates a business within the 64th district, the district we seek to represent. And thirdly, this district is rural. This district is small communities, deep relationships, family upon family upon family. I mean, it's 4 generations on my farm. And in that sense, it's quite tied to agriculture. Not just farmers, but the wide open spaces and sunsets behind trees and uncongested roads and quiet summer nights. I'm the only one in any way connected with agriculture. In fact, it's my life. And so putting all that together, that's what I would like to bring to Richmond. Who I am, my summation of my experiences, and be a voice for the 64th District in Richmond.
All right, that's going to be it. We're out of time. We want to thank House of Delegates Republican candidate, 64th District, Rex Alphin, for being with us. You want more information, go to Rex Alphin, that's ALPHIN.com, rexalphin.com.